Hey logo designers, this is Michael from Logo Package. This devlog is going to be all about reviewing our beta test that we just completed for Logo Package Forge. So I wanted to take you through the whole process from getting beta testers through collecting their feedback, distributing the testing, and finally implementing their feedback. So we're going to start off over here in Airtable. I use Airtable for a lot of my company management needs. So the first thing I did was last year, I wanted to check in with my customers about what they thought would be fair pricing for this Logo Package Forge concept. When I sent out that survey, I had a question about whether people would like to join the beta or not. And you can see here that I had 101 people signed up to be notified about the beta and were interested in beta testing. What actually happened when I actually did the testing was that I got probably 40 people or so who said they wanted to test, and then there were 12 people who actually followed through and submitted their beta testing session recording. And 12 might not seem like a lot, but really you just kind of start to see the same thing happening over and over again. So you really only need about 10. So I was happy to get 12. So how did I manage this? I used a tool called Fillout. And Fillout allows you to create forms, and then it will integrate with Airtable so that anything put into these forms can be added to Airtable as a record, or you can have an existing record like all of those people who signed up to be beta testers back when I sent out the pricing survey, and it will update the record that already exists for those people based on what they put into this form. And this is free. Obviously, the more you use it, you end up having to pay, but I've never reached that threshold yet. But yes, this was just very simple. First name, last name. Here's the criteria for testing. Are you a customer? Put in your operating system. And there was a reminder date for me to send an automated email to the person who filled out to remind them that they had said they were going to test by a certain date. So all of that information goes back into Airtable and allows me to build other automations, but mainly just capture information like you see here, like these 12 testers. I have their Illustrator version, their operating system, so that I can see if there's any commonalities, if a bug is only on a certain Illustrator version, so on and so forth. Ultimately, we got 10 people who were existing customers to submit testing sessions, and 2 people who were not existing customers, which is great because that means they don't have any familiarity with my other products. It's good to get completely fresh eyes. And then unfortunately, we were only able to get 1 person on Windows to test, but it would have been nice to get a few more Windows testers. So when I first started emailing people who had said yes to the beta from that pricing survey from months ago, I was not getting very many responses. So eventually I had to open up to my whole email list. When I sent out this fill out form to the whole email list, I ended up getting more testers signing up to be able to get these 12 submissions. So that's how I was able to get people to sign up for the beta, and how I managed their information, and how I sent them reminders for their testing date. Now I'd like to show you a little bit more about the mechanics of how I facilitated the beta to the people who actually signed up. Once people responded to my email and filled out the form saying they wanted to be beta testers, we sent them an email automatically that asked them to join a Slack channel. I've used Slack channels for other betas. It's just a nice, easy place to give people instructions and collect their feedback, as well as get bug reports, that sort of thing. In my Slack channel, I have 5 channels. I have the testing instructions. I have the submissions channel where people can submit the recordings that they have made of their testing sessions. There's a bug reports channel for writing up any bugs that they may have found, a channel for getting help, and then a general chat. So the testing instructions channel here is basically the only thing you really need to see. I just gave them steps for submitting and recording, and there were some instructions and the actual file that they could download to install Logo Package Forge beta for testing. When people did their testing sessions, they would then submit them to the test submissions channel, and I would get these links and then manually put them back into the Airtable, which is where you see these screen recordings here at the bottom of these submission cards. Keeping everyone organized was fairly simple. Just use Slack and some manual copying pasting over to the Airtable. Now I want to show you what these testing sessions actually entail and how I get users to provide me with valuable feedback and insights into how the product is working for them. One of the materials that I sent to testers in the link that they could download from the Slack channel was these testing procedures. I did this for Logo Package Swatch as well. Basically, I just try to think about what actions the user can take in the extension that encompass most, if not all, of the functionality of the extension. And I try to be a little bit vague with my directions so that I can see if users are able to figure things out on their own, if things are confusing to them. And as the testers go along, I have them narrate what they're doing. So you can see from this first page here, we want to record the session. It needs to be on Loom, or it needs to be provided as a file I can download from Dropbox or Google Drive, something like that. I ask the testers to narrate their actions. I say that speaking more is better than speaking less, and even if something seems really obvious, just say it. Part of this is because then I have transcripts and I can utilize the text in those transcripts to find commonalities between these different testing sessions, but also it just helps me be in the mind of the user as they're going through testing. I also provide post-test questions, which I'll show you in a second, but I need the users to also answer those questions on their screen recording before they wrap up the test session. And then I tell them that they can do multiple videos if they want. So with Forge, there are a few big feature sets that needed to be tested. So part one of the testing was font management. These missions are just about making font sets and sorting the fonts into groups. Part two was logo type generation. This is all of the settings that help you create logo types in Illustrator, where we actually generate your brand name in many different fonts. Part three was logo mark combinations. These settings allow users to add a mark with the logo types that they're creating. The fourth part was experiment. So just anything you wanted to try, test out, feel free to play around and, I can discover some things from there. Then we had the post demo questions. So these questions are meant to be open-ended, and not guide the user too much. It's just kind of encompasses the whole landscape of their experience with the extension. So what one thing excites you most about Forge? So is there something that was particularly cool to you? If you could change one thing, what would it be? How would you compare Forge to your current process? What might prevent you from using Forge in the future? What was the most confusing thing when you were using Forge? And do you have any more questions? This was the process that every beta tester went through, doing those test sessions in order, recording themselves doing it, narrating what is happening, and then finally answering these questions at the end. Once I get all of these submissions, these video recordings of testing sessions, how do I organize the feedback? This is where I come back to Airtable. I've already got the beta testers. I can simply assign one of these recordings to them, and then I can go back and individually put in pieces of feedback per user. So this 154 here represents the ID of one of the users who submitted feedback. As I go through the video, I simply record the timestamp at which something was brought up. I give the feedback a type or a category. Is it something that's just kind of miscellaneous? Is this an area where they're confused? Are they requesting a feature? Or is it an answer to one of those post-demo questions? And then I just go through and leave a note. So this person, for example, said that the star icon when you favorite something doesn't stand out enough. It's just an outline. It should be filled in. They were confused in certain places and they made a few feature requests. So once I've gone through all of the videos, then I can start to sort of catalog things and count them. So if I come to this features view here, we can see that I have about 36 different pieces of feedback here over, I don't know, let's say less than 20 different features that were requested. And then I can see their count, so I know how many people made this same request. In this case, the highest request for any one feature was typically about 3, so that would be 25% of the testers. And I can also catalog the bugs and see how many different people experienced different bugs, and I do the same thing for confusion. Here we can see that there are certainly areas that were always causing confusion. I have 8 people who were confused by font targeting. 8 people is 2/3 of the testers, or 66% of people. A lot of people had trouble finding the Make Logos button. There's 5 count there. So just being able to look through these things, get a count, quickly see which features need to be implemented, which things are the most confusing. Definitely find Airtable as sort of an all-in-one tool allows me to create these kinds of overviews, and it's really helpful to guide what my next steps are in implementing this feedback. The post-demo questions can really provide a sort of compass for focusing in on the things that are most important from the rest of the feedback. We have several responses from our testers about what they were excited about, what they wanted to change if they could, how it compares to their existing process, and what might prevent them from using it, as well as things that were confusing. So I just take all of this feedback and I kind of got a sense for what was important as I was cataloging everything. But I also was able to run the CSV of this data through ChatGPT. And just to give you an overview of what all of this feedback amounts to, the things that people were most excited about was that they loved how much time the extension saves, the fact that they can create sets to organize their fonts right inside of Illustrator. That's the whole point of the extension, so it's not a surprise that that's what people are most excited about. The thing that was requested to be changed the most was a little bit more control over everything. We'll see if I implement that kind of feedback for the launch version, because there's always a balance between feature bloat and ease of use. And if you can get exactly what you want by taking another step or two, sometimes that's better than giving someone 40 different options to pick from and really bogging things down and making a really confusing user interface. The comparison to their current workflow was across the board that it's way faster and way more organized, which is great. People who beta tested really didn't have any deal breakers, things that would prevent them from purchasing the extension. When kind of forced to come up with an answer, they said that like maybe if it was way too expensive or if it was not very easy to use and they had to spend a lot of time learning it, which shouldn't be a problem in either of those cases. So that was really good to see. The most confusing part was some of the settings in the logo type panel and also just finding the Make Logos button. I'll talk more about that when I actually take you through the changes that I've implemented, but we definitely tried to address both of those things that were really confusing. And so those were the general takeaways from beta and looking through these post-demo questions. By far the most confusing feature of Logo Package Forge for beta testers was using targeting to pair logo fonts. So if I add a second type line here and I call it type, you'll see that there are these target icons. Now the idea here is that we want you to be able to pair fonts. So you want to see what a serif looks like with a sans serif. You want to see what something bold looks like with something thin. Then you could pair fonts using Logo Package Forge. The way that this is supposed to work is that you click target, and this targeted line is going to allow you to pick exactly one font. And then you're going to choose a set with multiple fonts to pair with that one single font. So if I've targeted the logo line and I come to choose target font, I'm only going to be able to pick one font from my currently selected set. If I change this set to something else, you can see that the fonts change. So choose the target font, and I'll just do this audio wide. And then I get to choose a partner set. And this is where I can pick any other set to see all of the fonts from that set paired with the single font that we picked from our tech set. So I will go with fashion here. Now you'll see when we click make logos that we're going to get 3 variations because there are 3 fonts in the fashion set. So we have the audio wide on top for every single one of them, but we have 3 different fonts that the audio wide regular font is being paired with. Why do we do it this way? Why don't we make it so you can pick one set for your first type line and another set for your second type line? Well, the reason for that is because we allow you to have up to 32 fonts in a set. And if you were to have, let's say, 30 fonts in one set and 30 fonts in another, and we generated all of those variations mixed and matched, you would have over 900 variations. First off, you don't need to see that many variations. It wouldn't be very useful to you. And secondly, it would basically cause the extension to explode, or it would take way too much time to generate all those variations. So because of that, we figured that the best of both worlds is to allow you to pick one font you know you want to see and then get it generated out with a bunch of other variations. So we're happy with this feature. We're not going to change the way that it works, but the UI is confusing. And I think the UI is going to continue to be confusing, but we can make it better. So here's some of the ways that it was confusing that I think we can fix. First, in the beta, you could target every line. This is counterproductive. It makes the user think that they can click target, choose some settings, click target on another line, choose some different settings, and that just isn't how it works. In fact, this is going to just generate 3 variations that are just the audio wide type if we click make logos. It's not really a bug, but it's something we shouldn't allow. Here is what we have done to make targeting and font pairing easier to understand in the extension. So I'm going to add 2 type lines here, and I'm just going to type logo and type, and then I'm going to add a 3rd line here, and we'll just say something silly like greatness. Okay, so previously when you targeted a line, the font targeting options would appear, and there wasn't really much connection between the targeted lines and these filters up top. Now what we're doing is when a line is targeted, it is outlined in blue. The icon for the choose target font dropdown is blue, and the dropdown is blue. And what we're trying to do here is reinforce the idea that what you choose in this dropdown is going to affect the type line that is blue. And in fact, this works across multiple type lines. So if I select this as a target as well, you can see that greatness is not targeted, but type and logo are targeted. They're both blue, so is the dropdown. Hopefully this will reinforce the relationship through color of the targeted lines to this filter, and the choose partner set is still gray, which will match the color of the untargeted line here at the bottom. The other thing that we've done to avoid confusion here is made it so that you cannot target every single line, because as I showed in the old version, targeting every line just makes the same logo font variations over and over without actually pairing anything. So you'll see 2 things happen here. One, if I were to delete this greatness line, that should leave us with 2 targeted type lines, but this is not a desirable outcome. So instead, if I delete this line, you will see that the second line to be targeted is now untargeted. Additionally, I do not have the option to even click on target here. So this should keep users from targeting every line and also reinforcing the idea that some of the type is going to be generated in every variation of a partner set, and some of the type lines are going to be generated in just the target font. The next most confusing thing that beta testers encountered was the font search. There is first the position of the font search. The font search is over this left column where we have all of our default sets and user-defined sets. And when you search, you're actually going to be able to filter the fonts on the right, and it has nothing to do with the section that it's actually positioned in. Next, when you search, it will filter down the fonts. So let's say I'm looking for a serif. Right? So I start to type in serif, and only the fonts with serif in the name show up. Now, this is the functionality that you would expect, and that is totally fine, but the search results persist no matter what set you're in. So if we go to tech, you'll see that there are no fonts in the tech set which have the word serif in them, or the letters SERI. Additionally, our default empty state for a set that truly has no fonts in it says that the set is empty and suggests how you can populate the set with fonts. So this is bad UI here because this is not really what's going on. The set is not empty, and that was causing a lot of confusion. Often what beta testers would be doing is they'd go to the all fonts list, and they'd want to find a specific font, we'll say like Museo here. They would drag Museo into their text set, and then maybe they wanted to find Bodoni or something like that and put that in fashion. And then they would mess around with some settings over here, maybe go look at their logo mark, and now they click over to tech, and all of a sudden it says tech is empty because there are no fonts that fit the search. So this was causing a lot of confusion with wayfinding, with people understanding what fonts were actually in their sets, and we've done a few things to address these issues. Here is what we have done with search as a result of the beta feedback. So you can see we have all fonts selected here, and we've actually moved the search bar to the right. So now the search bar is above the elements that it's actually affecting. So if I do a search like I did before, let's say for serif, then all of the serif options are filtered and shown below where we see the search. The next thing that we have done to improve the search functionality and reduce confusion when navigating between sets is that as soon as you click off onto another set, the search is cleared. So I know that there are not any serif typefaces in the tech set, and when I click on tech, you will see that the search has been cleared and everything that was supposed to be in the tech set is being shown. Previously, you would have encountered a message here that said that tech was empty when that was not in fact true. And lastly, we have changed the message that shows up when your search does not return any results. So if I was to type in serif here, we'll see that there is a message right below the search bar that says your search returns 0 results. There are no fonts in tech that match your current search. So it's clear that you're searching in the tech set and that there are no fonts that match the search in that set. We think these improvements will make search a lot more functional for users. The last truly confusing thing that beta testers reported was having difficulty figuring out how to make this grid of logos. I think this was partially because of the way that I worded the test procedures. So the test might be for them to add some type to the logo type line and generate logos. And I think they would put something in, and then they see that there's this preview. And so I think they thought that was generating logos. And many of them were going through several missions in which they should have been generating these columns of logos to the left without touching the Make Logos button. A few of them did figure out that they needed to make logos, but they had no idea how to do it. We found that people were not successful with making their logos, so we made changes. You can see now that the Make Logos button is directly below the setting. So this should make it super easy for people to enter their settings and then know that the next thing they should do is make their logos. 2 beta testers suggested a change to the UI that wasn't necessarily due to confusion, it was just about efficiency. And that is sort of the redundancy of the Fonts tab. We originally designed the Fonts tab to be this way so that you had the maximum space to scroll through fonts when you were creating your custom sets. This information is persistent between the Fonts tab, the Logo Type tab, and the Logo Mark tab. And like I said, a few of the beta testers suggested that maybe we consolidate some of this information. You can see now that we only have 2 tabs, Logo Type and Logo Mark. And the fonts section is really only displayed under the Logo Type settings because there was some confusion that if you went to the Logo Mark tab, you could change your fonts and generate different types of logos than what you had selected when you were under Logo Type. So just to clear up any of that confusion, you only see the fonts list under the Logo Type settings, and when you go to Logo Mark, there is nothing there. It just shows the settings that are relevant to your logo marks. Many users were attempting to resize the panel window. And as you can see here, this panel window is not responsive. It doesn't grow vertically or horizontally. The extension is now responsive. So you can see if we resize from the bottom, we can make the extension shorter. And if we pull out to the side, let's say that we had a really long Logo Type preview, etc., that this would be truncated at the end, but we can also pull the extension out horizontally to make it wider. This should give people who need more breathing room the option to change the panel size. Some users also reported that the user interface was very small. If we look at Logo Package Express in comparison, I'll go to the settings page and maybe like the names. You can see that these set names here are much smaller than the regular UI of Logo Package Express. So we wanted to reconsider the default font size for the UI. In response to that feedback, we have increased the font size of all of the text in the UI. So the fonts inside of the search fields are bigger, the fields themselves are taller, and the fonts in the left sidebar are also larger so that it is easier to see everything on the UI. Now that we have implemented all of the beta feedback, we are ready to launch. And the launch of Logo Package Forge will be between May 12th and May 18th. And during that time, you can get 40% off the extension. I will release a code when the launch has officially started. I hope to see all of you there, and I really hope that Logo Package Forge can speed up your workflow and make things easier for you as a logo designer. Thanks for watching.